this week, Council held a public hearing for a potential new downtown business that drew a lot of attention from neighboring properties. The variance application from a developer working with a portion of the area formerly occupied by the co-op parking lot drew a lot of opposition from the community, largely over parking spaces. Neighboring businesses, including Grit Force Fitness and Harris Pharmacy, were not opposed to a development itself, but rather the request to vary the required numbers of parking spaces from 44 to 34. The lot, as it exists now, already is at or near capacity, and creating additional parking pressures might deter customers. A larger problem with the proposal might be the lack of safe pedestrian access to that block of First Avenue. Residents on the east side of the street, which is entirely residential, already struggle to find a safe path as there are no sidewalks for the bulk of the block. And where there is some sidewalk or paved area, it often requires a step up or step down along its length and is not well maintained in snowy conditions. The proposed development, as it was circulated, also does not include any new sidewalk in its plan. Development Officer Scott Kowalik indicates that there is sufficient space for a standard width sidewalk, and a condition of the approval could be to establish a proper sidewalk along the length of the development. Other conditions would include clearly marked parking lines for both standard and accessible parking spaces.
Okay, Scott, that looks like you're up.
All right. So the application for this variation is V09-2024N. The current owners of the property is the Zen Developments Limited, and the current applicant for this variation is John Lavish. The variation that's being proposed is to reduce the number of off-street parking spaces for a commercial building from the required 44 parking spaces to the proposed 34 parking spaces within the commercial central CC zone. The area affected is 342 Mountain Avenue, lots B, D, E, G, H, K, L, and M, Plan 62-813. And the reason that we would be in support of it is to fill the subdivision requirements to sever a 443 square meters or 4,769 square feet of land from the noted property. Notices have been circulated within accordance to the Planning Act, 100 meters around the property, and we have received a couple comments from surrounding property owners. The first one I'll read is from Sherry Hawking from Grit Force Gym. It reads as, Dear Neepawa Area Planning District, I am writing to express my concern regarding the application to reduce the number of parking spaces for the commercial building at 342 Mountain Avenue, as well as the inclusion of a subdivision in this proposal application V09-2024N. As someone who regularly observes the use of this parking lot, I can attest to the fact that this is consistently at or near capacity on a daily basis. The variety of businesses operating out of the old co-op building attracts significant foot traffic, with many people coming and going throughout the day. Reducing the number of parking spaces would likely create challenges for patrons and staff, potentially deterring customers and negatively impacting the businesses located there. Adequate parking is essential for supporting the needs of the community and ensuring accessibility for those who visit or work in the area. I respectfully urge the Planning District to consider the current parking demands and the potential impact that the reduction in spaces could have on both the businesses and the broader community. Thank you for your time and consideration. Sincerely, Sherry Hawking. And the other one is from Michelle Gerard. It reads as, Hi Jeff and Scott, I have received a notice for a variation for the parking at 342 Mount Avenue. I am opposed to the variation. He is asking for 10 less parking spaces. This is all the extra parking spots he needed for a new Harris Pharmacy building. Over 20% less than what is required for parking in the commercial area. Why would we want to start this precedent? Others have been turned away for wanting to change parking requirements. Not sure we should approve this one. Thanks, Michelle Gerard. And that's all we have received.
Question.
Yes.
It says from 44 required to 34, but that 34 we would have to assume that that's including 7 that are partially on town property and partially on...
There would be 8 that would be partially on town property, because that would include a potential handicap spot.
Sorry, what was that again?
There would be 7 standard parking areas with 1 additional handicap, so there'd be 8.
Partially on,
Yes, correct.
okay. So realistically, they should be asking from 44 to 26.
Well, it would be assuming we go with the same basis as what was granted for Great Forest Gym. There would be a sidewalk that would be running through continuously. So then that would still allow for the same parking that was established to the north.
But we are looking at 18 spots. If we were to grant that, then it would be down to 10 spots. He's still short.
Yes.
Okay.
From 18 to 10.
Yeah.
What is the percent if you were to, you get normally a 15%?
We do have the, within the Planning Act, we are allowed to do a minor variation of 15%. And that would actually roughly fall within very close to that number of being 10 minus. But being as, we don't necessarily always have to use the 15%. And this was a case where we didn't feel it was right.
So it's almost 7 stall. There's, they could be technically allowed to have 7 less stalls, but not 10.
Okay. So we're talking in excess of 20% then.
Yeah.
Yes.
There's still 1 person left.
Yep. Any other comments, Scott? No, any comments from the audience? Kathy, if you'd like to come up to the front here, that'd be good.
I saved you a spot right here, Kathy.
Thank you. I would like to speak to this as well. Maybe from a slightly different angle, which some of you may have heard. Anyway, I'm against the variation order to reduce the parking spots that's required, and I have several reasons for that. There's nothing in that parking configuration diagram that I received that appears to include a safe and accessible walkway for pedestrians. There's nothing in it at all that shows anything for anybody to get through there. The attempt last summer to redefine the parking to include a pathway between the vehicles resulted in vehicles with longer fronts like trucks and older cars overhanging the lane markers, and it was reduced the width to not very much in some spots. And since the first snowfall, it's been completely filled in with snow, so that's kind of like where that went. And presently, the sidewalk at the training center, it's always clean, but at the north end, along the sidewalk, there's a huge hill of snow, so you have to get out onto the street, and then you go back onto the parking lot to walk along the edge of the curb going north, unless there's trucks parked there, in which case they go right to the curb, so you go back out onto the road. And at the north end of the parking lot, you can cut over to the sidewalk for the gym providing you're good at stepping up an 8-inch curb when it's icy, or you can go further east to get onto the lower sidewalk access. And then at the north end of the gym sidewalk, there's an 8-inch drop, and a pedestrian either steps down there or they get off before that, because right now there's a big pile of snow there too, and in the summer there's a bunch of really stony gravel there and it's always wet. So you're back and forth on the road. So there really needs to be a pathway for foot traffic to get down that block safely and quickly without pedestrians having to dodge hither and thither to access a pathway. And the application does not indicate any pathway at all is being considered through that parking lot. My second reason is, by decreasing the number of vehicle parking spots, the parking lot itself will be more congested more often as it services more and more businesses. And at the present time, the parking lot can be quite full if classes are on at the gym at the same time the businesses are open. Another business requiring parking will simply put pressure on the street itself if people are unable to find a parking spot. Historically, foot traffic has always used the parking lot as a sidewalk. By replacing that route to accommodate vehicles with no plan to accommodate foot traffic on a busy street that is used as a truck route is really unconscionable. May I remind Council that the residents on the east side of the First Avenue are taxpayers to the town, whereas the vehicle traffic can be from anywhere and are certainly contributing to the businesses, but are not necessarily paying taxes to the town. I believe foot traffic should be an important component in any discussion relating to public parking. And I cannot support a variance that would reduce the number of parking spots required. And that's my report. Thank you.
Okay.
You need this? I give one to, yeah.
Yeah, if you don't mind, I can get a copy of that one.
Okay, you can get a copy of the one that she's got. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, any further discussion?
Nobody in support, eh?
What's that?
Nobody in support?
If it is supported, we would like to request a condition that the parking lines be well established within the lot and also the handicap stalls be marked clearly.
On the sidewalk?
Yes. Well, anywhere, as long as they're clearly marked. The sidewalk would have to be established. And also some sort of agreement if the town does decide to, or if council does decide to approve it, have some sort of an agreement as well, similar to what was done with Grit Force, to allow the access on the town property portion.
So I'm looking at the site map right now, as Kathy had stated, there is absolutely nothing for a sidewalk. It is just parking.
Correct, but when I actually did scale one out with the similar parking requirements, it does still allow for a sidewalk.
Where is that sidewalk located? Oh, and this would be on the street then?
Yep. If you want to, if everybody else wants to, you can pass it out if you want.
It would just be continuation from Great Force right down
Yes.
first
Correct, yes.
sidewalk.
Well, it'll have to jag over though.
Well, I believe there's
Because Grit Force is right in front of the gym.
to the west, and it would be runs directly
Straight.
north-south, and then I believe the intention is that actually going to kind of tie in with the nurses training center. Denny, if we're able to speak on that one.
Yeah, we do an extension of our sidewalk and correct the lines.
So you're saying, Scott, that sidewalk would continue from Grit Force and can go straight down through?
Correct, yes.
But then would there be an allowable access there off First Street into that parking lot?
There is an access between the training center and that parking lot, or where the proposed subdivision is going to be. There is access into that parking lot through there.
Okay, so the sidewalk ends at the proposed subdivided lot?
No, it would be continuous right through. Whatever building that
Straight through?
Yeah.
So whatever building would then have to accommodate that sidewalk?
Correct.
So the sidewalk is, on my plan, is it in this driving area or is it between these?
Between those two, right there.
Okay. Between, in the midst of this.
Oh, yeah.
It would just be physically putting a sidewalk, whereas right now it's just a space between those parking
Yeah.
spots, right? Like, it's creating a physical sidewalk, right?
Right.
Yeah. As opposed to defined but not,
Right.
maintained or enforced or.
It's a 5 foot wide sidewalk too.
Yeah.
Which is the new standard. So, Kathy mentioned how the grade 4 sidewalk's really well taken care of. Would that be taken care of? Who would be cleaning the sidewalk all the way through? Would it just be in front of the business owner?
That'd be the responsibility of the property owner.
Okay.
That's an agreement, Jason, we have
Right.
to have with any property.
As a business owner, you are responsible for sidewalks in front of your business. So who would ever be that property owner would ultimately be responsible for clearing those sidewalks.
Right.
Even if there's not even it would be just a perceived like that, it would be responsibility of any property owner to go do that timely to ensure safety. That's always we see there's abuses of that exist today in other areas, but there's not an active business in place.
And it would also have to be a raised cement sidewalk, not just painted lines on the asphalt.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a physical.
In council reports, we hear from several committees, including Finance, Economic Development, and Recreation, going into depth on a few of the most recent meetings. The Neepawa Public Library has released some circulation statistics showing above average circulation in November, and as well increased month-over-month attendance to many of its programs. The local committee is looking at installing door counters to better understand the volume of use, which isn't entirely reflected in circulation statistics. As well, the local veterinary board has met for the first time in over a year, which includes Neepawa and several of the neighboring municipalities. The big topic of conversation was the difficulty of attracting and retaining new veterinarians. There is a single school that serves Manitoba, Saskatchewan, and British Columbia, and the number of graduates is not meeting the needs of the province, which is short an estimated 60 veterinarians at the current time, but graduating only 15 a year from the University of Saskatchewan, not all of whom may choose to return to Manitoba.
Another couple meetings I went to was the AGM of the WMRL, the Western Manitoba Regional Library. We talked about how there was a fire at the Shoppers Mall, and it did affect the Shoppers Mall library location. All the books were damaged from smoke, and they're temporarily relocating the library from where it's located normally in the Shoppers Mall to where David's Tea was. So that's even a little more access. It's not quite as large of a space, but the other thing that we talked about too is in January here, finally it's coming BP's tour. So BP is a children's entertainer. They're coming to all the libraries within the WMRL, so excited to see how that goes. I'll admit, last night I looked up, because I'm trying to, me having young kids, my youngest is 11, I had to look, like there's a few new characters out there, different shows that I see kids are watching. I had to look up BP. So BP is a children's singer, so someone that sings to children. So I hear, this leads to our next meeting that I had, which was with our local library advisory committee, and I heard that the school has already kind of booked up all the time that she's at our library, so she's pretty full. Hopefully there's still some sort of space where if you want to come bring your child or come see BP from the public, hopefully that's still available. Just some statistics to share with you, a really neat improvement. We average about 1,400, our circulation is about 1,400 items a month. However, in November, we went up to 1,548 items, so we seen an increase. And then in December, it went back down to the 14,000. Just to give you a comparison, Shoppers Mall Brandon is circulating about 4,000 items. And then the larger location in Brandon downtown is 6,300 items roughly. To give it another rural branch, Carberry, almost 1,000, so just shy of 1,000. So we do okay, but we know that we're using our library beyond just the circulation items. So our local library board is looking at making sure we have some of those door counters and things to allow us to see the true numbers, because we know we run so many programs. Our facility is being used constantly by large numbers of people, and it's more beyond. And so many people just come to the library and they sit and use the library itself, you know, and they don't ever have to take out their library card even. It's a nice public space. People could come to a nice warm space. Last night when I was there, before it closed, there was a couple patrons, you know, looking at newspapers and things. So it's really a nice place to go and get out of the cold and have that public service. What's interesting, which is good, is we're really seeing a bigger and bigger uptake of our Saturday programming. So Saturday, the library is open 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. The push is to continue seeing those hours grow. But we're really seeing some really good numbers now in our building on Saturdays. Again, Monday to Friday, it's open 10 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. And Thursdays, they're open till 7 p.m. So there's a late evening. And we're starting to think that residents are really seeing that now, especially with the cold. We're getting some really good numbers. So our library is pretty busy. Some current programming to share with you. There's story time on Fridays at 11 a.m., baby time on Wednesdays at 10:30 a.m. Book club goes the third Thursday of the month, 11:30 a.m. and 6 p.m. There's a writing club on Saturday, the fourth Saturday of the month at 12 p.m. Board games, there's a kids board game once per month. There's a teams board game on Fridays, and there's an adults on the first Saturday of the month. So depending on what you're looking for, we have it running in our community here, so it's really great. There's also Get Crafty, which is once per month, and there's a Dungeons and Dragons group that meets once per month, and of course the Lego Club once per month. I'm looking at you and you guys are like, wow, this is amazing. So this doesn't even include our book clubs, you know? So there's a lot of book clubs. We also have one-offs, of course, too. So there's different Switch game nights that just seem to pop up depending on demand. And the Christmas kids had a Christmas tournament, and Santa Christmas themed scavenger hunt, and both adults and kids. So lots going on at our beautiful library. Our new librarian was actually, she got her photo and just a little story about what she was reading during Christmas and stuff. So it made it into the Brandon Free Press, I believe. And thanks to the photographer, Owen Devenol, took the photo, and it's quite the photo actually. And it made it to the Winnipeg Free Press also, so it got republished. So Neepawa is getting out there in the community, so that's good to see. I'll switch over to another meeting I went to. So this is a meeting I haven't really gone to before. This was my first one, and it was a really good group of people, very passionate. It was the Neepawa District Veterinary Services Board meeting. So they hadn't met for quite some time, approximately 15 months. So it was nice to meet again. And we got to talking about how difficult it is to attract and retain our staff. So we had a new vet, as you know, start here in May. So we have 2 vets working out of the clinic there. We have enough room to have 3, but we do know that Dr. Foss retired now in November here, quite some time ago now. So we're just looking at, that's another thing that needs to be, I think, on our radar. And as a board, we discussed that. You know, it's funny, I have kids that are in grade 11, so they're ready to start making their career choices where they should go training and stuff. And U of S is the closest training facility if you want to get into veterinary medicine. They only take those 70 grads per year, and out of those 70 grads that they graduate, 15 of those seats are Manitoba subsidized seats. So we really need to start advocating provincially and start looking to get a larger increase. It's gotten to the point where Alberta has actually created their own vet school now, and Ontario has their own vet school. So we're servicing BC, Saskatchewan, and Manitoba with those 70 seats. Our vet kind of stays attuned to how many vets Manitoba needs currently. Currently, she figures, just from the ad she sees, we're actually short about 60 vets in Manitoba alone. So looking at those daunting numbers, it shows you how important it is. So I started us talking on it and we kept going. So we had some really good conversations, and we also talked about something as simple as vet techs. They're also in high demand. The average vet tech lasts about 5 years, and you have to go to Red River or Lakeland. So it's a 5-year lifespan because people want to keep doing more. They don't just stay complacent in that one role. So I thought that was really good. We really had a really good evening there, and even when the meeting ended, people didn't want to go. They stayed. So that was really nice to see too. But our current facility, as it is, can hold another vet, so it would be interesting if we could ever attract, and we do put the odd postings at different places. So our vet, of course, Liz, she is posting in the current places. One thing to note is, at the board, it was motioned at the last meeting actually, but this year is something where they want to start it. They want every RM, so every municipality, to put $2,000 into a fund, and the fund would stay within our own accounts. And this $2,000 would be for sewage pipe overhaul. At the vet clinic, they're not currently, I guess they're attached to a septic tank. So if every municipality put $2,000 away, we are not having issues yet, but it's only a matter of time. One question I would have for Denis, when he gets a chance, if he could let me know what his thoughts were. Is it possible, I said I would look into it, is it possible for us to hook to the sewer? And if so, what would the cost be for the vet clinic there? The issue that they're having, the pipes are on the inside. They're all cast iron pipes in the building. And the problem with it is the pipes are right into concrete. So in order to replace those pipes where they're having the issues, it's not even the septic tanks itself. Like, economically, it's probably better just to leave it septic. It's the pipes that are in the building that have just gone through the changes. So lots to report here. I think I hit all of my meetings there. We just went past our normal meeting time, eh? Sorry about that. Lots of excitement going on in Neepawa, so nice to report to you guys. Thanks.
Okay, thanks, Jason.
Right.
Yes, Councillor Sisson.
Mine will be much shorter. Though that was great information.
Yeah.
And I can't imagine having to move the library in the Shoppers Mall.
Yeah.
That's crazy. I wanted to congratulate Roder's Bakery on their grand reopening, which was last Monday, January 13th. It's been a long haul for them, so it was nice to see them get open, and it looks fantastic inside. And I've heard rave reviews about the food. I haven't had a chance to get there yet, but yeah, I've heard a lot of great things. So, the Neepawa Chamber will be hosting a morning coffee chat on February 5th at 8 a.m. at the Chamber office. The guest speaker for that one will be the Fire Chief, Eve Gillis. Please RSVP to Jennifer at the Chamber office if you're planning on attending that. Neepawa Economic Development, Westlake Employment, and Neepawa Settlement will be hosting a job fair on February 27th at the Legion. If your business is looking to fill a job vacancy, call Marilyn for details and to register at 204-476-7607. There is no cost to participate in the job fair. And Cass just wanted me to let everybody know that campground bookings will open April 1st. The previous site that the town had for campground booking has folded, so there's a new site called Let's Camp. Now this site is also the same site that parents will do swim lesson registration on. So you just need to create one username and profile for this one. The swim lesson registration schedule is online. It is not open yet though, and I don't have an exact date of it. So, but she just wanted me to let everybody know that it's a new site and you will have to register and log in for that one. So,
Council conducts all other business in a separate second part of their meeting. If you have any comments or questions about these items or topics about Council and the municipal government process in general, please contact us at 204-476-2639 or by email at nactvnews@gmail.com. Thanks for joining me, and I hope to see you next time.